The Lost Love. A Journey Through Memory. He's out there somewhere, Jack. My first love. The one who made my heart dance like a drunk squirrel on roller skates. That was the first thing Eleanor said that morning. Before breakfast, before coffee, before even realizing her slippers were on the wrong feet again. Jack froze halfway through flipping pancakes. The spatula drooped in his hand, syrup dripping onto the counter like slow-moving tears. He'd heard those words before. In fact, he'd heard them many times before. But this time felt different, because Eleanor's eyes had that glimmer again, that spark of mischief and nostalgia that made him fall for her 50 years ago. And just like every other time, he smiled, wiped his hands on his apron, and said, "All right, Ellie, let's go find him." A week earlier, if you asked anyone in the small town of Maplebrook about Eleanor Harris, they'd tell you she was a firecracker. Even now, at 76, with hair the color of snow and a memory that worked about as well as Jack's old radio, which only played one channel and occasionally screamed static. Eleanor had dementia. Some days she remembered her favorite recipes, other days she forgot her own birthday. But one thing never changed, her stories about her college sweetheart. Jack, her husband, best friend, and full-time mischief partner, had grown used to hearing her talk about that charming young man with the crooked smile who swept her off her feet back in college. Jack always chuckled. "Lucky guy," he'd say. Eleanor would sigh dreamily, staring out the window. Oh, he really was. And every time Jack would feel the same mix of amusement and tenderness, because, of course, that charming young man was him, but Eleanor didn't remember that part anymore. The plan. That morning, Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, clutching an old photograph, faded and cracked, showing a young woman with bright eyes and a grin, standing beside a tall boy in a Letterman jacket. "This is him, Jack," she said, her voice trembling. "This is the man I loved, the one who made me feel alive." Jack looked at the picture, smiling softly. "Well, he's a handsome devil. Looks like he might have stolen your heart fair and square." Eleanor nodded seriously. "He did, and I want to find him, before I forget everything." Jack leaned back in his chair, scratching his chin. "Find him, huh?" "Yes. Will you help me?" He smiled. "Ellie, sweetheart, I'd follow you anywhere, even back in time." So that's how it began. The great love quest of Maplebrook. Stop number 1, the diner on Main Street. Their first stop was Maggie's Diner, where Eleanor claimed she'd had her first date with the mysterious college sweetheart. Jack helped her into the booth, their usual booth, though she didn't remember that, and signaled to Maggie, the waitress who'd known them for decades. "The usual?" Maggie asked with a knowing smile. "2 milkshakes, 1 chocolate, 1 strawberry," Jack said. Eleanor blinked. "How did you know?" "Oh, just a hunch," Jack said, winking. As they sipped their milkshakes, Eleanor began to giggle. "You know, my first love did the silliest thing that night. He tried to impress me by pretending to juggle salt shakers. One flew into the next booth and hit the pastor's wife in the head." Jack burst out laughing. "You don't say!" "She didn't talk to him for months," Eleanor said with mock seriousness. "But I did, because I thought he was adorable." Jack's eyes softened. "Adorable, huh? I can't imagine what she saw in him." "Oh, don't be jealous, Jack. You're cute, too." He chuckled and took her hand across the table. "I'll take that as high praise, ma'am." Stop number 2, the college courtyard. Next, they visited Maplebrook College, where Eleanor had spent her student days. The place hadn't changed much. Ivy crawling up old brick walls, students rushing past with coffee cups and messy hair. Eleanor stood in the courtyard, looking around like she was stepping into a dream. "This is where he asked me to dance," she whispered. "There was no music, just the sound of rain." Jack smiled, remembering it clearly, the night they danced under a leaky roof, soaking wet and laughing like fools. He gently took her hand. "Would you do me the honor, miss?" Eleanor blinked, surprised. "Here? Now?" Well, the rain's taking a day off, but we can pretend, she giggled. You're ridiculous. And yet charming, he said with mock pride. So they danced, right there in the courtyard, under the curious eyes of passing students. Her steps were slower now, his back a little stiffer, but somehow it felt just as magical. When the song in their heads ended, Eleanor looked at him, eyes glistening. You know, you remind me of him, the way you hold me, the way you look at me. Jack smiled softly. Maybe we shop at the same store for charm. She laughed, that beautiful, youthful laugh that still made his heart skip. Stop number 3. The hill by the lake. By sunset, they reached the old lake at the edge of town, the spot where Jack had proposed decades ago. Eleanor stood by the water, eyes reflecting the golden ripples. This was our place, she said quietly. He told me he'd love me forever. Jack's throat tightened. Did he keep his promise? She turned to him with a sad smile. I think he did. I just wish I could tell him how much that meant. Jack stepped closer, heart aching and full at the same time. Maybe he already knows. They sat together, watching the sky melt into orange and pink. She rested her head on his shoulder, and he whispered, You've always been my girl, Ellie. She smiled faintly. You sound just like him. Jack chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. The revelation. That night, they returned home. Eleanor was quiet, staring at the old photograph again. Finally, she looked up at Jack. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you help me find him? Doesn't it hurt you? Me chasing someone I used to love? Jack smiled, eyes kind. Ellie, love doesn't end because memory does. You wanted to find him. I just gave you a ride. She studied him for a long time. Her eyes flicked to the photo again, then back to his face. And slowly, her breath caught. The crooked smile, the twinkle in his eyes, the faint scar on his chin, the one from that salt shaker incident. Her lips trembled. Jack? She whispered. It was you? He smiled softly. It's always been me, sweetheart. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Oh my God, I remember. The rain, the milkshake, the lake, everything. Jack took her hands and kissed her knuckles. Welcome back, Ellie. She laughed through her tears. You idiot! You've been letting me look for you this whole time? He shrugged. Hey, I like seeing you fall in love with me all over again. She chuckled. Well, you're lucky I still find you handsome. I'll take it, he said, grinning, even if it comes with wrinkles and a side of forgetfulness. That night, they slow danced in their living room, the radio humming a soft, old tune. Eleanor hummed along, her head on his chest. For that one night, everything was perfect. Love rediscovered, memories restored. The next morning, the sun peeked through the curtains, spilling warm light across the room. Birds chirped outside. Jack stirred awake, stretching with a satisfied sigh. He turned toward the other side of the bed. Eleanor sat up, squinting at him with curious eyes. Who are you? She asked softly. Jack smiled. The same warm, patient smile he always gave. Then she frowned. Wait, you look familiar. You remind me of someone. Oh? He said, heart swelling. Who might that be? My first love, she whispered, eyes lighting up. Jack, I think his name was Jack. He chuckled. Well, that's a coincidence. What did this Jack fellow look like? She smiled dreamily. Tall, handsome, with kind eyes. He made me laugh. And I think I loved him. Jack sat up, his eyes glistening. He sounds like a great guy, Ellie. He was, she said. Do you think you could help me find him? Jack reached over, taking her hand. Sweetheart, he said, his grin soft and steady. I'd follow you anywhere. And with that, the great love quest of Maplebrook began once again. Later that day, as they drove down Main Street, stopping at the same diner, walking through the same courtyard, the townsfolk smiled knowingly. Because everyone in Maplebrook knew, every few weeks, Jack and Eleanor went searching for her first love. And every single time, she found him. All over again.